Second only to the vast wealth of the Premier League, Turkish football clubs have actually been the biggest spenders in the transfer market over the last 2 years. A surprising fact for a league outside of Europe's strongest. In an era when the Saudi Pro League and others are spending outside of their traditional remit, this might seem normal. But with Turkey, what's interesting is not that they're spending the money, but where the money is coming from. Transfer fees are just one part of that money. For instance, the estimated salaries for the 5 big signings that Galatasaray made alone this summer are in the region of 28 million euros. And it's surprising. The country's big 4, Besiktas, Fenerbahce, Galatasaray and Trabzonspor, were collectively around 1.7 billion euros in debt in 2021. And the government even put them on a repayment plan. For a while, it felt as if the clubs were taking it seriously. Galatasaray had reduced their annual wage bill from north of 54 million euros to a more manageable 27. Mesut Ozil aside, Fenerbahce were looking at more modest, profit-generating moves. And Besiktas' transfer policy seemed focused on relatively inexpensive domestic talent. Financial fair play restrictions were also forcing the clubs to be more prudent, so the era of signing big names seemed a thing of the past. But the main problem is that Turkish fans love, or at least those in charge perceive that they love, the big names. And a story from 2015 describes that. Galatasaray were champions with a team largely based around a Turkish core, and the Champions League awaited. However, when the 15-16 season tickets went on sale, they were having trouble shifting them. On the other hand, Fenerbahce's season tickets were flying off the shelves, despite having finished behind their great rivals. The reason? Well, Fenerbahce had signed Robin van Persie and Nani, both from Manchester United. Most fans believe that the place you win the championship is in the airport, says Ismail Sayen, a football writer and an expert in Turkish football finances, referring to the enthusiastic welcomes that Turkish fans often give new signings as they clear customs on arrival. It's a vicious cycle, because the presidents have told the fans this: we're going to bring you stars, and we will be the champions. So the fans demand the best players for their team. And to do this, they need to pay pretty significant wages. Turkish clubs announce the salaries they pay their signings, so based on those figures, Galatasaray's total wage bill is just over 50 million euros. Fenerbahce's is in the region of 42, and Besiktas's is lower at around 31. An appropriate comparison might be a top club in Portugal, which is ranked 7th in the UEFA coefficients, with Turkey 9th. Porto's annual salary obligations are in the region of 27 million euros. Benfica's are around 37, and Sporting Lisbon something like 24. However, footballers' wages in Turkey are both negotiated and reported as net figures rather than gross. So when Fenerbahce say that Edin Dzeko is being paid 4.2 million euros, that doesn't include tax or bonuses or signing on fees. So this all begs the question, where does all this money come from? Well, it's not from the TV companies, and that's because the broadcast revenue has been gradually falling. The league agreed a new global broadcast deal last summer worth around $370 million a year for 2 seasons, way down on the previous deal. And this makes Champions League revenue much more important, particularly because with only 1 slot available, rivals are excluded, which of course helps to partially explain the champions at any cost mentality. And there are other sources of income. Galatasaray have been signing up a range of sponsors. This summer, they agreed a 3-year €15 million deal with Sokar, the Azerbaijani state oil company, to be their shirt sponsor for European competition. They also renewed their main shirt sponsor agreement with the car rental company Sixt, worth a reported €100 million over 5 years. And they also agreed a new naming rights deal for their stadium with construction company Rams Global. And Rams proudly announced that they made a financial contribution to the permanent signing of Mauro Icardi. Galatasaray have also made money selling players, but a bigger projected source of income is a property deal. The club are due to move to a new training facility in the north of Istanbul in January. Luxury housing will be built on the site of their current base, supplemented by a neighbouring 40-acre plot the club bought from the state. It's estimated that this will bring in around €455 million. Now, Fenerbahce's spending can be broadly explained by 2 things. One is their president, Ali Koç, whose family is among the richest in the country. Koç is a smart man, but he is absolutely desperate for the title, having failed to deliver a single trophy since taking over 5 years ago. And the other source of the club's income is the healthy profit that they've made on recent player sales. And these are all examples of things that help the spending continue. But there is one other reason: a lack of consequences. All the big clubs are listed on the stock exchange, says a former executive at one of those teams. But if they were other companies, they would have been delisted and bankrupt many years ago. Because of the social implications of how popular football is, all of these clubs are too big to fail. Even when things reached a breaking point a few years ago, and the government insisted that the clubs would have to repay their colossal debts, their arrears were restructured by a network of state-owned banks at favourable interest rates. And in fairness, the clubs do seem to be making an effort to pay it back. One tangible consequence is FFP. At various points, all 3 Istanbul clubs have had issues, although they seem to be viewed as brief inconveniences. But that might be changing. While there has previously been little backlash against the spending, surprisingly so given that public money has helped to bail clubs out in the past, the mood has slowly shifted. A few years ago, says Cyan, nobody cared about it. But in the last few years, we do hear some voices. The government is not happy with the debt. They know that it's wrong. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.